Hello, everyone. I just wanted to make a quick commentary on the fourth essay assignment, in which you're asked to, in a general way, compare and choose between the conception of the Book of Life as it's imagined by Hartshorne and Jonas on the one hand, and the conceptions of immortality which are proposed by Plato and Landsberg. That might sound like it's more of a larger task than it really is. I'll tell you, the thinking behind it is the kind of thinking that you'll see reflected in the overview video for part 4, which you should probably take a look at. And that is that the conceptions of immortality that Hartshorne and Jonas offer are much diminished from the kinds that Plato and Landsberg do. Plato and Landsberg imagine what I would consider a full-blown afterlife. Again, differing between them, but both of them think, at the very least, that death is a transition to a new life which entails new experiences. Otherwise, their conceptions don't make sense. That is, there have to be new experiences. The philosopher needs to find truth once the soul is liberated from the body for Plato to make sense. And the person has to find fulfillment in an afterlife for Landsberg to make sense. That's why I would say that both of them absolutely need to have something like new experiences, a true life, a true afterlife in their conception of immortality, where the conceptions that Hartshorne and Jonas offer, again, they do differ between each other in certain important ways. For instance, it seems to me that Hartshorne is imagining that each one of us has a separate book of life. Clearly he implies that each one of us exists forever in terms of the reality of our lives as we lived them in every detail, but that those lives constitute their own volume, you might say, in God's library. Whereas Jonas, if I'm reading him right, imagines that there's one thing called the Book of Life that each one of us, in a certain sense, adds to because of the moral decisions that we make. So there are differences, right? Hartshorne, many books, Jonas, one big book, but they're very similar ideas insofar as they believe that we should think of our lives as having eternal significance, but that we do not, neither of them imagines that we have an open-ended existence in terms of having new experiences and things like that. I think neither of them would subscribe to anything like, let's say, the Christian view of the afterlife. Reward and punishment, divine reward and punishment, divine judgment, things like that. Now, the whole thinking behind this is that there's a give and take. That is, on the one hand, you really have to ask yourself whether Plato and Landsberg really made their cases for this full-blown immortality. It may be that Jonas and Hartshorne, because their conception of the afterlife is quite diminished, that they don't have to work as hard to try to argue for it or make the idea plausible. On the other hand, it may be that the Plato and Landsberg view is just much more satisfying because it does include new experiences and a kind of reward in a way that Hartshorne and Jonas does. So I really do think you have to think about it. Does the Book of Life concept, as offered in different forms by Hartshorne and Jonas, offer a better alternative to the versions of immortality proposed by Plato and Landsberg? It really depends on what criteria you're applying to come up with an answer which is better. And so the whole idea of the assignment is as an exercise in thinking about that. What criteria are the ones that you think matter? in terms of these visions, in terms of these versions, I should say, of the afterlife, the general book of life idea, as opposed to the the more full-blown, ambitious ideas of the afterlife that Plato and Landsberg offer.